So, many people think Excel is just for typing numbers, all right? But in this series, I'm going to completely change how you see Excel forever. Okay. Anyways, hello everyone, and welcome to the Excel for Data Analysis series. My name is Meshak, and this is not another Learn Excel Formulas playlist, all right? This is where you learn how real data analysts use Excel to clean data, analyze trends, build insights, and create dashboards that actually make sense. And so, whether you're a complete beginner, a student, or someone looking to break into data analytics, I'll be taking you step by step from the basics all the way to an advanced job ready Excel skills. By the end of this series, you should be able to know Excel. You also know how to think like a data analyst. And so, if you're ready to turn Excel into a powerful data analysis tool, then let's get started.
It's all gonna be good. Don't worry about nothing. Don't worry about nothing. Nothing now. It's all gonna be good. So breathe like you know you should. Yeah, breathe.
Alright, so let's jump right in. And so, in this particular video, what we are going to do is that we are going to get introduced to the interface of Microsoft Excel, learn a few things here and there that will be essential to our learning, okay, for this particular series, okay. So, we are going to be looking at some things like what cells are, column rows, and all of that, alright. Now, before I jump into and talk about this, I just want to put this out there that even though a lot of people, me included, agree that SQL, which is SQL, is the bread and butter of the data analytics world or the data world, all right, and that is absolutely true. The catch with this is that if SQL is the bread and butter, then Microsoft Excel is actually like the flour, the sugar, the yeast, the water, and the oil that is used to baking this bread. All right. Now, this is because Excel is basically the foundation of any data professional. All right. In order to go into data, all right, Excel is the one skill you can't ever bypass. All right, you obviously and you really need to know Excel, all right, to know how to use Excel, okay, in order for you to now move ahead to learning new and additional skills in order for you to become a successful data analyst, all right, which is why or that is why Excel is really important for anyone that is wanting to venture into this particular field. Okay, and so with that out of the way, we are going to start off slowly, and then as time goes on, we are going to build on that momentum. And so, yeah, so that's how it's going to begin. We are going to build up slowly, and then carry on with that momentum. And then subsequently, we'll start building our dashboards in Excel using our pivot tables, Power Queries, going into some really serious formulas like the ifs, the sum ifs, index matches, and all of that. All right, but today's video is going to be fairly simple. So without much ado, let's jump right in. Okay, and so to continue, when we talk about Excel, this is essentially what the template is like. So this is the Excel template, and these are the typings that we have in our templates. All right, you can do the typings in these boxes, and these boxes are called cells in Excel. All right, so these boxes that we see over here, or these boxes that we see the values in them, are actually called what? They're actually called cells. All right, and so we have our cells, we have these items in their respective cells, all right, and these ones also in their respective cells. Okay, now one other thing you need to understand is that when it comes to Excel, we have the columns, so these are our columns, all right, and then we have our rows, so these are our rows. Okay, so we have the column and the rows. Now the column and the row is important for you to get or to grasp, because when we start building up our pivot tables, you are going to see that the columns and the rows are going to come in handy. All right, and so it's important that you need to note that these items moving from the left to the right are what we call the columns, and then from the top down to the bottom are what we call the rows. Okay, and so when I start to type something like name, age, so I'm typing in a column way, all right, or I'm typing, I don't know how to say it, but these are going to be me typing in the columns, all right, and then when I start putting in the figures, all right, I'm going to say now I'm putting the figures in a row. Okay, so like you've seen over there, I believe I've already explained that. Okay, all right, so now let's continue. So now that we've seen this, a couple of things that you need to keep in mind is how Excel reads your values. Okay, so how does Excel read our values? So let's say if I come here and I type anything like this. Now, okay, so how is Excel going to read this? So this is found under the column I and then row 3. So this is going to be read as I3. Okay, so this is I3. That is the column name. Now, if you come here, this is going to be called E2. All right, so that is a column name E2. Now, this is important because when we start doing some aggregations, you are going to be seeing something like this. So, an example is this, and you might be wondering that where is the E2 coming from? And so the E2 is simply the column and then the row number, all right? And so the column is E and then the row is 2, all right? And so that is why you are seeing E2 as this particular, that is how Excel calls the figures in the cells, all right? And so without this, if I'm to come here, also it's going to be E4, all right? So that is how Excel is going to call it, all right? Now, this is going to be C4 because the column is C and the row is 4. If I'm to come here, this is going to be column B17. So this is going to be B17, all right? And so that is how Excel calls its values, okay? So I just wanted to put this out there, all right? Now, once we are done with this, these items over here helps you to, format your values, all right? They help you to format your values. And so for instance, if I have these and I want to change my headers, all right, what I can do is I can just come here. This is going to be bold, all right, and then we can do what? We can also change the font style. We can change the font style. We can align it in the middle or align it to the left or align it to the right, all right. So we have all of these items here that you can play with. Now, once we start going into details, you'll be seeing a lot of them play out, and I'll be explaining a lot of them more into details for you to understand. All right, and so do not be afraid. Once we get there, I just want you to have a clear understanding of what these things over here are for, so that you don't get confused, all right, or get it complicated. Now, these are not the only things that we can use when it comes to Excel. You can see this currently at home. If you go to insert, there are quite a number of things also that we can use it. Now, as you go on, you are going to see a lot of them also come into play. And then we have the draw, we have the page layout, we have the formulas, we have the data, we have preview. So we can use all of these. All right. So as we go on, like I've said, we will be expanding on what we are learning, and you get to know more of them. All right. Okay, so now that we understand that, let's talk about something different, something that is also quite important, which is the data types. All right. Now, in any professional data analytics tool, there's something called data types that you need to pay attention to. Now, what are data types? Now, data types simply lets you to understand how the values in a particular row are called, all right, are called or are represented. Okay, let me say that are represented. Now, what do I mean by this? What I'm simply saying is that if this column has date values in them, then the column needs to show that the items in that particular column are dates. But if we do not work on the data types and we are using this in our visualization, or we are transferring this to maybe somewhere like Excel, somewhere like SQL, excuse me, then SQL is going to read them as text values. And then when it happens that way and you're trying to perform your analysis, now you realize that your analysis isn't adding up. Why? Because we didn't pay attention to our data type. Okay. And so in this particular situation, if I'm to select this entire row and we come to the data type, now this is the data type section. All right. So if you want to change the data type, this is the data type section. So you can see that now it's currently at general, which if you are to send this to SQL, it's going to read it as text. If you are to send this work like this to Power BI is going to look at this row as text. Meanwhile, in actual sense, this isn't text. This is supposed to be a date column. All right. So what you can do is that once you select this, you need to make sure everything has the right data types assigned to it. And so I select that, and I know it's a date column. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to come and select my short date or my long date. All right. So I'm going to select this. Now once I do that, you can see that the data type has changed. So now if I'm to transfer this particular data set into SQL or Power BI, it's going to be showing as date without any problems. All right. So now that we've done for this, what we can simply go and do is that we can check for the remaining ones. You can say this particular column is a text. It has text values, so it's still on general, which is fine. All right, because these are text columns. This and this, they are text columns. So general is fine. When you come to quantity, quantity is general, but quantity under normal circumstances shouldn't be general, it should be numeric. Alright, it should be numeric. So what we are going to do is we can just click on this and change that to number. And we can have this. And now we go to revenue, and revenue is currency. So what we can do is we can hit this and then change this to currency. Alright. Now if you are not in the United States or your currency isn't the United States currency by a different currency, once you have this selected, you can simply just come right here and select wherever or whatever your currency is. You can just come right here, hit on this and select, or go to more accounting formats and then go and select that. Okay. All right. Now one another thing I need to point out is that sometimes when you are doing your analysis and you have these many zeros attached to the actual figure, it can get a little bit complicated. All right. And so a lot of the times, me personally, I do not like to have my revenues with these zeros unless they are actual numbers at after the decimals. All right. So unless probably have something like 500.50. All right. So I have something like 500.50. What is this? Oh, please. Currency. So I have something like this. Okay. Or mm, like so. Let's format this. Okay. All right. Or I have something like so. I just need to format the column. Don't worry. So I have something like this. Okay, then so there are some numbers after the decimals. All right, and so if that is the case, let me just remove this for now so that, all right, so if this is the case, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to leave it like so. But in this particular case where every other thing after the decimal is 00, meaning we don't need a 00, so like so we don't need a 00. So what can you do to remove the 00? So you need to do is to select that particular column, the entire column, come right here, right, to decrease decimals, and then remove it, and then remove it. And now you can see that, excuse me, remove it. And now you can see that we don't have the 0.00s attached to it anymore. So now if you go performing our analysis, this will be easier to perform, all right, than when we used to have the 0.00 and 00. Okay, so you can do the same for this as well, where we can just remove this. All right, but if in some instance, all right, but in any instance where we want to add the zeros to it, we can just select that entire column and we can do just this to get that entire column. But in this case we don't want that, so I'm going to take that out. All right, now one other thing that I want us to look at is that if we are currently on this sheet, all right, so this is the first sheet, the sheet we are currently on, so this is sheet 1. If we want to create a new sheet and fill in some new inputs, all we need to do is to come right here to this plus, hit on this plus, and we can say, all right, so this is now sheet 2, or you can name it however way you want, and then you can fill in your additional information to this. Okay, and so yes, this is just the first, and this is just the introduction, all right, to what Excel is all about and how to use Excel. Now in the next video we are going to be looking at some aggregate functions, so like the sum, the count, average, min, max, and things like that. All right, and so I do hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.